So it's early morning. Nobody's about, and the cemetery gates are wide open. Yeah. Yeah. So what's with this? Cemetery gates wide open. It's a bit bright. Let's drop that down a bit. Can't see where I'm going there. Cemetery gates wide open. That's unknown. What's going off? So I'm on a early morning walk. Can't see a bloody thing. On an early morning walk, and the cemetery gates are wide open. That's an absolute no. This don't normally happen. So why are the cemetery gates open? So anyway, as the gates are open, I take it it's still public land and I'm allowed in. I can hear some distant birds. So I'm in of what was, when I was a kid, I've got a cable sticking out there. What's that? Let's try and move that. This was an overspill. Let me just fix this cable. That's better. When I was a kid, this cemetery was just classed as an overspill, and there was nobody in it. I mean, no bodies in it. No graves, nothing. It was just grass. In fact, I can't see a thing. In fact, when I was a kid, and I'm talking about 8 years old, this area wasn't even built on. It was even the road there, passing by where the lampposts are. The road wasn't even there. That was built when I was 11, 12, 13. So all this is now a filled graveyard. My mum's in there, and let's have a look round. Yeah. Yeah, so what's up with the graveyard being open? That's an absolute no-no. I've never known the graveyard to be open at night. The gates are always locked. You got the flashing lights on the graves. There are a lot of LEDs. This place is decorated at night time by loved ones, remembering the people, the kids, and they bring balloons, LED lights, angels, all kinds of lovely stuff. You'll have to excuse me, I'm just suffering from man flu. Got over the worst parts of it. Yeah, but I remember this when it was empty, and that road didn't exist. That road didn't exist at all. The asses didn't exist, the lamppost didn't exist. In fact, when I was a kid, I'd be about 8 years old, like I said. Let's drop that down, otherwise I'm going to get blinded. When I was a kid, we was walking down here one day, my brother says to me, "Did you see that light in the graveyard? Did you see that light?" And my first thought was, what was it? And it turned out to be a reflection of some light from the distance shining on the marble gravestones. So yeah, nice and quiet. Really is quiet. That's where I've come from. There's nobody about. Absolutely nobody about. We're at the circle. The circle is like a little roundabout in the graveyard. Yeah, the circle is a roundabout there. But yeah, never known this. Been a while since I came in the graveyard, kicking loose gravel around. I'm going to turn the light off. So I want to show you across the road where people are. Oh, there's a new one. When I was a kid, these used to be flats. There used to be another 2 stories on there. I think it was called Padley Court. And they're all backwards now, because the front doors used to be on the other side. And where that gap is, there used to be a bridge that joined the courts. So you can imagine another 2 stories on those. And underneath was the old folks' homes, where the old folks lived in little flats. And above that you got 2 stories. And then another 2 stories. So there used to be 5 stories at that point, but the council topped them off a few years back. But the road where all those cars are, and that white van, that road wasn't there when I was growing up. And yeah, where am I? I've passed my mum's grave. Let's go and have a look. I think she's on this one. There's my tractor down there cutting the grass. I'm going to stick to the path. I'm going to stick to the path rather than cut through the graves. Because one, I don't want to be walking on people's graves. And the other one, I don't want to fall over something I don't see. So, with a light that bright, I can't see sod all. We'll go for that. Yeah, I'm just right near the path. Stick on the path, I'll be alright. But I can't see anything. Got this little light right in my face, I can't see sod all. There's nobody about, it's nice and quiet. So the question is, why are the gates open? And also, when I was about 8 years old, you got the bollards over there, them white bollards. That's where Emshall Lane ended, and it comes up to the cemetery house. That's as far as Emshall Lane came to. So we are looking where them bollards are. None of that existed. It was blocked off just about where them bollards are, and then swung that way, where I'm heading. But these are the flats. I think they were called Padley Court back then. Different names now. And the gates are open this end. Yeah, the gates are wide open. Look at that. This has not been known. So the big question is, what are the gates being done open? Sorry about the wobbly on the camera, I've not got stabiliser on this as far as I know. Yeah, so what's the gates doing open? That's today's stroll question. I shall go into the graveyard. This is Northern Cemetery. And I'm not going in too far because there's cameras, there's at least 2 cameras that I know of. One's on the side of the house up there, on the top right corner. And the other camera is on the old chapel. So I reckon we can just walk in. The caretaker's huts. So I reckon we can just walk in and have a look at this chapel and walk in the graveyard. I know there's a camera up there. You see that sticking out on the top right on an S-shaped bend. They can probably see me. The question is, what is this doing open? What's the old chapel doing open? There's no use going down there because it's too dark to see anything. Yeah, it's very quiet. Get rid of that wire. Right, let's head out. So the guy that locked up is probably off for a week. These are the kind of places where nobody comes at night. So I'm going to tell you a ghost story. We get out of here and I'll tell you a ghost story. So, top of Hampshire Lane. This is where 40, 50 years ago Hampshire Lane ended. Yeah, this is where Hampshire Lane ended. It came up the hill, finished just here, and then from here you've got a track that goes down between what was the overspill, which is now a filled cemetery, smaller part, and then you've got this. This is a medieval track. This was here before the cemeteries were here, and the reason they didn't build on the medieval track is of course you're not allowed to, from what I understand. So I'll tell you a couple of ghost stories. Well, one ghost story that might just link up into two. I can't see where the hell I'm going. There's bright light in my face. So I'm on the medieval track, heading roughly south, from north to south. And this medieval track has been here for a few hundred years and ties in with the ghost story. I'm going to have to turn the camera around because I can't see a bloody thing. So let's turn that up. Get that cable out of the way. So, as the story goes, my brother had a friend that lived in a farm shack at the end of the cemetery path here. At the end of the cemetery path you turn right, and about 20 yards in there used to be an old farm shack, and beyond that was just fields, nothing else, and it's all built on now. But at night time my brother's friend used to have to walk down here because the road over there, Hampshire Lane, was not built. The road was not built there, so that was just wasteland fields. But this pathway, you would come up here, it was the closest you could get, the most direct route, and it would come this way home, maybe after a night with lads or girlfriends or whatever, wherever he'd been out, he would have to walk down here to get back to home. And the story goes, which my brother told me a few times, he would hear horses and a carriage or a cart belting down this track towards him and past him. Now, from what I understand, he heard it several times, not just the one, but a few times, and he would dive towards the railings, and there's about a 10-foot gap between the railings. He would dive towards the railings, out of its way, and listen to this, to put these horses and carriage thunder by in a rush, heading south. Now, I've known that story since I was about 8, 9. My brother told me, my older brother told me that, and I find it quite intriguing. But the best part was, it was heading this way, south, down the road medieval track. And yeah, he come from that way, heading this way. And anyway, I grew up, I got a job at Royal Mail, and after 27, 28 years or more, I ended up delivering to a hall which is about half a mile, or within half a mile of this track. Straight ahead there's a hall, Hempshire Hall it's called, and it was owned by Mr. and Mrs. Roberts. Mr. Roberts died, she left a son, and the son lived with his mum, Mrs. Roberts. And the son was always in a rush. Got to do this, got to do that, got to be there for them, got to be there for that. And every now and then, if I got a chance, I would strike a conversation up with Mrs. Roberts. She loved a conversation, she loved a chat. It's like she didn't get to talk to many people. And we spoke several times, and I guided the conversation to ghosts, asking if the hall was haunted. And she says, oh yeah, the hall is haunted. And she told me a couple of ghost stories about the hall, which I've learned a lot more since from other people as well who's experienced it. So I've got it all firsthand. And she says to me one day, have you seen the Headless Horseman? Of course, my ears pricked up. No, I've not seen the Headless Horseman. And she says, I've seen him twice, she says. And to turn this around, she says, I've seen him twice. Just alter the light on this, blinding me. Yeah, she says, I've seen him twice. And she says, it's been a case of when we've both been out, her and husband, he came driving down the track, the private road to the hall, and she will get out, open the gates so he could go and park the car. And she'd close the gates behind him and then go in a side entrance. Now, as he drove the car in, she shut the gates behind her, which left her at the front of the hall, or to the side of the hall, and she heard the clatter of horses and a carriage, and she was shocked to look round and see two horses come flying up the driveway and stop straight outside the side entrance to the hall. And she says there was two horses, it was a carriage, and there was a horseman sitting on the top, and he had got no head. There was a headless horseman sitting on the carriage, and this headless horseman stood up to get off the coach, and she noticed he was wearing a two-tailed long coat, and as he descended the steps of the carriage, the whole scene just vanished before her very eyes. And she says, and then the next point was, and I don't know the distance between the times of the sightings of the ghosts, it could have been weeks, could have been months, could have been a couple of years. She said she'd been out again with her husband. God, I'm going hot. She'd been out with her husband, and he came down the driveway, usual routine. She gets out, opens the gates, he drives in through the gates, she closes the gates behind him, she goes in through the side door to the front door. There's a gate in the wall, I'll put a picture up. And for the second time, she gets out, does usual routine, open, closes the gates as the car goes in, and the carriage comes thundering down the driveway again, and pulls up outside. And this time she noticed a bit more detail, and she says on each corner of the front of the carriage were 2 little oil lamps, and outside the garage also was outside the wall of the hall, there was a little electric light. It didn't light anything up, but it was more like a guiding light. So then this carriage pulled up behind, this carriage pulled up outside the hall, the 2 horses dragging it as it came, and it stopped, and the horseman stood up. He got no head, and she noticed again he's still got 2, he was in a long coat covered over his shoulders, big thick coat with 2 tails on it. And as he descended the steps of the carriage, the whole scene just dissipated in front of her eyes, and that was the Headless Horseman. And the thing is that the ghost that comes down this carriageway, that comes down this medieval pathway? Is that the ghost that comes down here? So yeah, something to think about. So you've got 2 ghost stories which could link up into one, because the whole thing is focusing. The whole thing is heading in the same direction. The Headless Horseman coming down this pathway, and the clatter of horses and carriage bombing down here late at night, like it is now. Late, and it is late, and he's heading in the correct direction. Not forgetting the road to my left didn't exist. The houses to my left didn't exist 50 years ago. So if you take that for the last 400 years minus the last 50 years, you've got a ghost story that links up from one ghost story to another. To me, it's the same guy. It's the same horses and carriage. And if I turn my light off, you can see that little glimmer right in the centre of the screen. There's a tree in the way there. There's a house there through the railings. There's a house, the side of a house lit up by a lamppost. Now that is just about where the old shack used to be that the young lad lived in. Excuse me. So you wander up here, or you come down there in your horse and carriage, belting down here. You're heading towards Empshire Hall. And the big question is, why has this horseman not got a head? He's not got a head at all. So, and I'm going to get out onto the streets in a minute, so I shall turn this light off. But there's other pathways that lead that way. And in front of us we have the houses where this pathway would have ran straight through those houses there. That's where the medieval path would have gone. But saying that, there's an alleyway just here. There's an alleyway with a lamppost down it that basically ends up in the same direction. So there you have it. The ghost of Empshire Hall. the ghost of Northern Cemetery, if you like. So, do you think the two stories match up? I think they do. I think they're part of the same story, and I believe things happen for a reason. Like, if I haven't got talking to Mrs. Roberts, these stories would never have been told. So yeah, these stories are being preserved. I've written everything down when I was told them, so every detail was captured the same day or the day after. So anyway, I've done full circle. I'm on there's a magpie. What's he doing up this time in the morning? He's early. There's Hampshire Lane. Yeah, there's Hampshire Lane. That's heading the other way. Nobody about. And this did not exist. This did not exist 50 years ago. Maybe even 40, but I'll go 50 just to be on the safe side. So yeah, Hampshire Lane. All this that you can see 50 years ago was just fields. Within half a mile that way is Hampshire Hall, where the truck was heading. Like I say, none of this existed. But that tree did. But yeah, there we go. Right, we call it a night. I'll see you again. Have a good one. Night nights.